What's up, Joe? We're live.
Hey, what's going on, dude?
I'm trying to load up a few news stories. Got a guest today.
That's right, Neel, that we met at East Denver.
Yeah, it's actually a pretty cool. Looking through their system, it's actually a pretty cool system. It's kind of roll-ups as a service.
Yeah.
Currently limited to like 3 chains, but we'll talk about it with them in a minute. But I want to load up some news stories before he joins us.
Did you send him the link?
I did
Good.
yesterday and today, but I have not heard back from him, so I don't know if he'll respond, if he's coming for sure or not. Hopefully he is. Let's see. Let me get some news stories open. You got anything going on?
I put a bunch of links in there. The similar stuff.
You put that headline about Congress would have to approve retail CBDC.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty important.
So that was Powell said that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So look, you just got to get Congress off their ass so they start, setting the rules. Otherwise it's just all going to be set in court,
Right.
which, I'm fine with. I have no problem with, judges reining in the SEC and everybody else and setting the rules, but it sure would be easier if Congress would do something.
Yeah, absolutely. That would be it would be nice to have them do something.
Of course, we know they're going to do nothing
Exactly.
for 2 years, but the Senate seems to be ready. If anything could just come out of the House of Representatives other than gobbledygook, we could get something in place, but I don't see it.
I'm not expecting a damn thing.
No.
And
Nothing
I'm certainly
other
not
than
expecting the House or the Senate to agree on anything. I'm concerned they're not even going to agree on fucking paying the debt of the money we've already spent. So
Yeah, it's funny because that money's already appropriated and out there. And so it's not like whatever they do does anything for that. It just basically says it just defaults the dollar essentially.
yeah,
And when you take out the, kind of the superpower currency, it's just going to destroy economies all over the world. Which, maybe that's that gets us to that $6,000 number that Sean's always talking about.
there you go. Well, there's been some news. I mean, more and more of the analysis coming out of the Grayscale hearings seems to be positive towards Grayscale. Although I saw I think it was one attorney for the chief legal officer or something for Grayscale saying, yeah, but our fear is that while they may support us, they'll just push it back to the SEC and say, give them another shot or something, and that they'll just come up with other reasons to not give them the ATF.
Yeah, supposedly there was an article I was reading today, and there are some sort of ETF type products that have that Overwatch feature that the SEC is always, talking about.
Right.
And one is from Fidelity. I think the other one's from Valkyrie. And I don't know if they're futures or what I think it is futures, but the framework's all in place, and that's what, the SEC's primary complaint is about this Overwatch function. But they've already approved it in other ones. So it just seems to me like they're really trying to stick it to the Grayscale guys and gals in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
And it doesn't make a lot of sense.
No, it really
to me.
Well,
Particularly when you.
I think part of the fear is that they know what an ETF will do to the market, and it'll make it explode. It'll bring in more institutional money, and then they have a bigger hill to climb to do regulation by enforcement.
Yeah, but look, think about. You always say this. You've been saying this quite a bit, and if everybody just litigates, it's funny when we were saying the other day about the SEC, and I was going, don't they have 67,000 attorneys? And you quickly fact checked me and said, no, it's only 4,000. I remember it wasn't the SEC; it's my law firm that has 67,000 lawyers. It's like, so, and that's just one out of the top 10. If they all just started suing SEC like Grayscale has,
Yep.
I mean, it would put them on their heels. It doesn't have to be the little guys. I mean,
Absolutely.
just, let me kill my VPN here. I'm locking up a little bit. That would get this done too. So, if Congress doesn't do anything, or the SEC doesn't come to any clarity, or they don't replace Gensler, then it's going to happen in the courts.
Yep.
So, we'll see.
I got a new Mission DeFi episode out, number 90. So once we hit, I got another one coming day after tomorrow for the guys we met at Carbon. You and I will be, the combined episodes will be 400 here shortly. So anyway, awesome interview with Sam Williams, the founder of Arweave. Really thoughtful. We did it's a long episode, but I really encourage everyone to listen to it. Listen and understand why he created this. He was doing his doctorate in distributed operating systems and completed in his first year of his doctorate everything he needed to do to develop a distributed operating system, and was a huge geopolitics junkie, and was kind of terrified of all the old stories of fascism and communist regimes murdering and killing people, and information not being available, and not being around, and kind of took this approach of, okay, I can't solve all the geopolitical problems, but maybe I can take one piece and solve it, and that is to make information and knowledge permanent and stored somewhere permanently. And that was the original reason he created Arweave, was to create this permanent, eternal storage mechanism, decentralized, not able to be touched or attacked by anyone, and on the foundations of blockchains and Ledger and Bitcoin. And he says in the interview he wishes he had been able to create Arweave before Ethereum was created, because he's fairly critical of Ethereum and the foundation and the centralized control perceived there, just like Sean is. So it was really interesting. But the reason we had the interview was I had learned that, in fact, what's there to Arweave is a shit ton more than just storing files. There are multiple smart contract languages on this platform. There are all kinds of social network applications being built on this platform. The system itself can be a free-form database system. So you can actually use Arweave as a database. So it actually deconnects kind of the old way of doing Web 2 applications, where you've got your code and you've got your database and it's all together and it's your application. Because the data lives on chain, you can actually use this as a massive database for your applications, and not have to build that part out, but also make it available for other applications to use and use it in different ways or put different interfaces on it. Anyway, really powerful. The guys at Redstone that we met that have the Oracle system, they built one of the smart contract the most used one on Arweave, called Warp. They built that smart contract language so that they could offer an Oracle system that was cheaper, faster, and more secure than the existing Oracle systems out there. And so they wrote the smart contract language out of necessity, and they wanted to be able to store cheaply data on Arweave. And so that's one of the languages that's out there. But it's impressive. If you if you go to arweave.org and take a dive into the documentation, into what the community's up to, I think you'll be as blown away as I am. There are 8 different teams that develop for Arweave, all separate entities, all running on their own agenda, their own strategy, everything else. And Sam is just a really impressive dude. So I was fascinated to learn even more about this platform that I hadn't known before, the origins of it, and his story of coming up with it and developing it. So, stuff.
what I was surprised was how often Arweave came up in discussions with all these other protocols. Everybody around, like the Oracle strategies, the different ones there. I seem to remember like it coming up in a conversation with some of the Euler guys at that party. A lot of people are talking about Arweave, and plus they had the best promotion, I thought, out there.
Yeah.
With the orange hoodies and the QR codes. So
yeah, that was cool.
These guys are really going somewhere, and it makes a lot of sense.
I'm really impressed, kind of the whole ethos of this thing, what's possible here. And look, transactions get bundled on this network, so they can be very fast, but they don't settle for, it takes about 2 minutes. So we talked a lot about, well, look, if you have this power and capability in this blockchain, why couldn't this be used for DeFi? And he actually said, look, you could conceivably, but we're not a money transfer network. We're not meant to be that. So we're never going to work to massively speed up transactions because we don't care. It's not important for what people use our platform for. But what he did say was that people are still doing it, right? And the other concept that we talked a bit about was NFTs that have functionality that are being used to store on Arweave. Meta is using Arweave for their metaverse. They're storing their data and objects, and NFTs will be stored on Arweave. Google has a project using Arweave. So a lot of folks really excited about the future of this project. I was really glad to chat with him and enjoyed it. So,
well, at least we know if he's finished in a doctoral program in 1 year, he's pretty bright too.
Yeah, no, he's really bright. He had to dumb some shit down for me in the interview for my smooth brain. So it was.
You're kind of used to that, though, right?
Yeah, definitely.
No, I haven't listened to that one yet, so I look forward to listening to it too.
Yeah, it's out now, so everybody take a look if you get a chance, and then. Couple of days, the Carbon Bancor episode with Mark Richardson's going to be out. That was pretty powerful because he kind of gets into a lot of what they and the community went through when they had their problem last year.
Yeah.
So I think that one's going to be interesting to see how people respond to it.
What was cool when we went to their party, I was really, aside from meeting people there that I didn't know worked there or were part of that protocol, I was like, oh, great to see them. I was really impressed by the fact they didn't pull the plug.
Yeah.
And the problems they had were really Terra-related problems. It wasn't, anything on their doing per se. It was more contagion. But they could have walked away and they didn't.
Yeah.
And the rebranding, super cool. I remember, I don't know if he says it in your, no spoiler, but that Carbon's what would you call it? An anagram of Bancor, Bancor.
Yeah.
Which I thought was pretty clever. And I love the look, of their swag that they passed out. And just the people there were overall super cool. Now I know that, that they are looking at HK a lot. So they're all going to that DeFi conference, I think in a couple of weeks in Hong Kong.
Right.
So I'd love to get there. We should reach out to them when they get back and just see how that went.
Absolutely.
What the feeling was, because they're survivors, and I love survivors.
Yeah,
I love
too,
it when
man.
you get your ass kicked and you get up and go again.
Exactly. And look, so many people in this space that have problems end up, bailing. And so great
running away and crying. So.
Yep. Shizzy said, I haven't seen this interview yet, and I meant to watch it, listen to it, and I forgot. Michael Sonnenschein from Grayscale was on What Bitcoin Did with Peter McCormick and tore him apart. Michael is just so unlikable. I don't want GBTC to be the first one, rather Cathie Wood and ARK. I'd love for Cathie Wood and ARK to get it, but frankly, I just want somebody to get one at this point.
I think I would like to. The only reason, obviously, ARK is more likable. And GBTC is tainted by the DCG stuff and all of that, but and they're getting sued by Alameda, I think, for $8.5 billion. But I think that a GBTC ETF, would be something that would really light up the market faster, because of what they're holding. I know Cathie Wood's holding a lot of BTC that she bought, if I'm not mistaken, at around $800. But I don't think it's at the level of, near the level of what GBTC is holding.
Right.
So, from a likability standpoint, a diversification standpoint, I like ARK. But at the same time, I think if GBTC falls and gets theirs, then ARK's going to be right behind them.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a tweet you sent me about that nuclear-powered Bitcoin mining facility. I'd like to find a news story on it. I'm trying to. Here you go.
Yeah,
8,000 rigs at Nautilus.
Ooh.
TerraWolf. Here we go. What is going on? CoinDesk is having some technical issues. Please wait. address some technical issues with our feed. TeraWolf has begun operation in its Nautilus crypto mine facility, the first nuclear-powered Bitcoin mining facility in the U.S. with nearly 8,000 mining rigs online, representing computer power hash rate of about 10 exahash per second. The company expects to have about another 8,000 rigs energized in coming weeks, bringing capacity at the Pennsylvania-based Nautilus facility to 1.9 EHS. Nautilus will significantly lower TeraWolf's energy costs, with the company having secured a power agreement for 2 cents per kilowatt hour of power for 5 years, which will bring its average energy cost down to 4 cents per kilowatt across its 2 facilities. That's much lower than U.S. industrial average of 9 cents per kilowatt. So that's awesome.
Wow.
I love seeing that. Tomorrow we got the Sean's friends from Skilling Power Energy, Skilling Energy. They are the ones that are in Ireland using excess energy at renewable locations, whether it be solar, whether it be manure, whatever it is. They take excess capacity at those locations that can't be sold back to the grid or used otherwise, and use that for Bitcoin mining. So we're going to have them on as guests tomorrow to chat and
that'll be
learn
fun.
more about that. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, we have to remember to ask them what their cost per kilowatt hour is in their like hybrid models.
Oh yeah, good idea. Good idea.
Yeah, just so we can compare it to Nuke.
So evidently Richard Hart is wiping his Twitter clean of Hex. You found this tweet. And that some other folks, he blocked me, so I can't actually share one of the tweets you sent me. Corey Clipstein doesn't like me because I actually challenge his assertions in the world. So Corey and I are no longer pals.
Is Corey part of the onesie club?
Corey is that's one of the tweets you shared was tweeted out by him. Corey is the founder of Swan Bitcoin, who is the toxic of all toxic maxis.
Looks like we got Neel in the green room.
All right, let's go get Neel. Let me take off the screen sharing and let's chat with Neel.
Hey,
how are you, buddy?
Hey, buddy.
It's going well. How to get Eat Denver? How are you guys doing?
I came home and decided to be sick, so I'm having a lot of fun with that. But otherwise, I'm glad to be home, relaxing, and relaxing. That's a lie. Not relaxing.
Yeah.
But glad to be home. How about you?
Over in New York for this week.
Nice.
Heading back to yeah.
Nice. You look like you're in a cool sound booth there. Is that like at a co-working facility?
It's one of those Instagram type hotels that my girlfriend booked. She loves booking these. And I hate them because the bed is always not comfortable and it's always just not actually that great, but you pay a premium so that you can post it on Instagram.
Well, at least you got you got the soundproof booth there. That's cool.
I don't even know about that.
Tell her I said thank you. So Neel, your project is called Eclipse, correct?
Yeah.
Why don't you first give us a little bit of introduction to yourself, and then let's get into what Eclipse is. I was running through the website earlier. I love the way you guys explain things on the website. It's awesome. So give us a little background on you. Give us a little background on Eclipse, and for those listening, give us a short explainer on rollups, and then we'll take it from there if that sounds good.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Cool.
So a little background on myself. My background's in traditional finance. Used to work at Citadel. I was at Quant in the power group or in the commodities group. So mostly doing power, gas, things like that. Left in March of last year. Started right in the Cosmos ecosystem, building specifically on Terra.
Nice.
When Terra Depeg scrapped that project, chatted with the Celestia folks who reached out. A lot of these ecosystems reached out to me, and they all gave their pitch on what the future of blockchain infrastructure should look like. And ultimately, it was the Celestia team and researchers in the Ethereum ecosystem that convinced me that rollups were the most likely path to scaling crypto to bring on the next billion users. And the idea behind a rollup is that instead of doing all of the compute on a layer one blockchain, instead you do the compute off of that blockchain. In some way, you have to commit that result back to the layer one, and you have to demonstrate that the result was actually valid or was computed correctly. So in the case of an optimistic rollup, you put the result there, and at any point within the next week, someone can say, hey, that actually wasn't done correctly. So you're basically optimistically putting the result there, and then someone can be pessimistic and scratch that and give some evidence that you executed it wrong. Whereas some alternate way of doing this is a ZK rollup. You give some actual proof or evidence that the execution of the program was done correctly. So those are the two high-level routes. And what Eclipse lets you do is deploy your own rollup. So we call it build your own rollup. We're on the website right now. And the idea is that, let's say you want to deploy a Solana VM rollup to, I don't know, Ethereum. You can do that. If you want to deploy an EVM rollup to Polygon, we support that. So we let you mix and match the virtual machine and the base layer for your rollup. And the reason why you do this is that first you get all this optionality, because historically, if you wanted the cheap fees of Solana, you had to use the Solana VM. Maybe that's not true anymore with something like Eclipse. And then the second thing you get is you get to customize it for your app. So maybe there's some sort of crazy functionality that can only exist if you have your own chain. For example, I mean, a simple one is you just want to charge gas in your own token. So that then you can customize the gas token. Maybe you want to recapture MEV or arbitrage opportunities for your community. That's something that you can build into your own chain.
Nice. So, and this differs. We've talked previously in the past about like the subchains on Avalanche, etc. This differs from that in that you're basically providing the rollup functionality on top of a chain of choice of the person, but they have now the capabilities to customize, but they're not having to do all of the work to maintain like a layer 1 level chain at that point, right? I mean, and you guys are offering this. Is this kind of like rollup as a service? You help them deploy. How does it all work? Kind of your relationship with the project that's using it.
Yeah. So right now we know every single customer that's deploying. We have an early access program, and we pair each person with a solutions engineer. We're going to be announcing a lot of these test nets in the coming month. In the future, we'd probably only do that for enterprise customers, and we'll have a self-service option if you want something more standard. So those are the two ways that we'll envision deploying in the future. And then basically the short-term outcome is let's go ahead and get people on these general purpose chains, such as what we are deploying for Polygon, like Polygon SVM. We have some other chains coming up with some chains that haven't been publicly announced, so we'll hold off on saying the names. And then we have a bunch of folks building things like games, physical infrastructure networks, and things like that.
So what chains are currently available for Eclipse? Solana?
Right now, yeah, so we could pick for your virtual machine, you could pick the EVM or the Solana VM.
Okay.
And then for the base layer, you could pick Celestia, Polygon Avail, or EigenLayer.
Oh, nice. Oh, that's interesting. You guys already have EigenLayer up.
Yeah, EigenDA. Yeah, so these are all in testnet right now.
Great. Okay. So essentially you're recruiting right now people to come on board to try this out. And it's going to be folks that really need either the performance of this, or as you said, want to control the token used for gas on their own network. Are you primarily seeing things like dedicated financial applications, game applications? What kind of things are you seeing as people show an interest in what you guys are doing?
Yeah, I think it's more general than just performance or customizing the token, because you can build in all kinds of things like privacy layers on the execution layer. You could have a KYC chain, so a permission layer, where you can only use it if you belong to certain jurisdictions. And there's actually folks building, this is a bit of an alpha leak, but folks building like real world asset chains using Eclipse.
Oh, wow.
One of these chains is doing like full matrix multiplication in the chain.
Wow.
So there's interesting things like that going on as well.
That's very cool. I like the idea of it makes sense that somebody doing a real world assets investment play would use a roll up for that, right? It allows you to control configurations if there's KYC or whatever else you might need for that kind of an investment program. That makes a ton of sense. I love that. What kind of, I mean, how did you get to this concept, right? I mean, were you just kind of looking for things that like you think will be the next wave and you decided, hey, we're going to try to build on this, or kind of what was your approach to deciding to launch this business?
Yeah. So like in, I think July, I wrote this post about interchain security fee markets, meaning like basically my starting question was between Cosmos, Solana, Ethereum. Ethereum is really slow and it's like very expensive. Solana is, I think it probably errs a little bit more towards centralization in the sense that the nodes cost a little bit more to run.
Right.
So then if you look at Cosmos, it's basically solving the problem of throughput constraints by just spinning up more chains. So I was wondering, why don't more people spin up Cosmos chains? Because there actually aren't that many. Somewhere sort of like low hundreds, if not just basically 100 serious Cosmos chains, if even. So I was thinking, is the problem about bootstrapping the validator set, and that seemed like unlikely because I think that people will just like start validating for chains just to capture like a potential airdrop.
Right.
I was thinking, is it because they don't want to write like all the logic for a full blockchain? That's possible. Maybe the deployment process is too tricky. Maybe when you want to do upgrades, you have to like coordinate all these validators. So I was trying to make sense of that, and ultimately I came up with this like fee market to provide interchain security, which is like basically you want to spin up a chain. How should you borrow validators from someone else rather than spinning up validators of your own? And the advantage of doing that, it's just a lot easier. So that's where it started. And then I was thinking about just like chains of the service in general. The Saga team reached out. Celestia reached out to me. And they were just like, L1s in general are very economically, like they're not efficient. And this
Right.
you have to put all this stake on the chain. If it's a proof of work chain, you need all these nodes running the network. So you're actually better off just being a rollup and borrowing the security from something like Celestia, where their only job is to be a secure base layer for rollups. And then the person deploying the rollup can just think about application logic. So that was a very compelling sell to me. And then just looking at the progression of the Ethereum ecosystem. And now we've kind of been vindicated and we have folks like Optimism doing OP Stack. We have a lot of other rollups of the service that have popped up after us. So I think that the thesis has proven to be at least directionally correct. Obviously, it's not fully proven out yet until we have 1,000 plus rollups on Eclipse. I wouldn't say that it's proven out.
Yeah, but I definitely look. I mean, it's obvious that that's a path that the market's going to go to, right? And you guys kind of have led the way there. That's fantastic. Do you guys have also kind of like what are the issues around onboarding onto rollups for these projects that are joining you? Bless you. Go ahead.
Sorry about that.
No, it's quite all right. I've been doing that all day.
Depends on the type of app. So if it's a DeFi app, the number one issue is often liquidity fragmentation, and that's probably or maybe just a lack of liquidity that they might be experiencing in the Solana ecosystem. And typically going to your own app chain doesn't necessarily solve that unless you somehow integrate it with some like on-ramp, off-ramp, or there's some sort of reason why more liquidity would flow into your app chain. You're typically better off being in like a large shared chain, such as Solana. But the way that we do solve it is if you look at Polygon SVM, for example, we have this arrangement with the Polygon DeFi team, like Hamza and the folks over there.
Sure.
They have a bunch of market makers and liquidity providers who can deploy capital into your protocol if you deploy to the Polygon SVM chain. And a lot of other folks spinning up Eclipse chains have a similar arrangement.
Oh, that's cool. That's very cool. And then you guys are seeing, so you're seeing asset management, games. What, from your targeting perspective, are you guys going to be really targeting existing protocols that exist in this space? Are you going after new projects being built? How are you kind of approaching your biz dev?
Yeah, definitely after new projects. And
Okay.
the reason is twofold. One is that to get existing projects, they often expect a grant or something.
Yeah.
Which we don't. I mean, we just don't think it's capital efficient. The second reason is that a lot of the existing projects are built for the ecosystem that they deploy to. Meaning, if you're on Ethereum, you probably built your DeFi app as an AMM. And AMMs, they were built for situations with low throughput, whereas we have a ton of throughput. So if you're building, if the AMMs of today built on Eclipse should probably be designed differently with like any throughput constraints they had in mind eliminated. So that's kind of how I see it. It's like we want to see these next generation apps that are tailored for our infrastructure in the same way that Solana saw the rise of CLOBs, for example, like Serum. Serum couldn't have been built anywhere else. And that's the kind of unique innovation that we want to see, especially in like gaming. I think physical infrastructure networks are really interesting. So we have a project called React. It's like a battery market solving the fact that in California and a lot of these regions, we have plenty of renewable in the daytime because, you know, the sun is out and I don't know, and stuff. And then in the evening, the sun goes down and we don't have the batteries to take that power and use it in the evening. The evening price is really high. So they're solving that with this physical infrastructure network. Things like that are really interesting to us.
Very nice. No, that sounds awesome. And what's the model for working with you guys? What's the revenue model for Eclipse?
So we've yet to define that. I think it'll have something to do with staking.
Okay.
In terms of like providing sequencers or validation. That's one interesting model.
Yeah, that makes sense. I like that.
You can imagine a world where we just like charge a haircut off of transaction volume.
Yeah.
But that's a very simple model. That's how the L1s did it, right?
Right.
The L1s, first of all, I don't know how successful that was. A lot of them like aren't really like quote unquote profitable in terms of the resources required to run the network compared to the revenues coming in.
Right.
Yeah, and then the other thing is that just doesn't seem like a super roll-up native model, because there's a lot of other ways where we can accrue value. There's money locked in bridge contracts, which we could lend out. There's cross-chain MEV. There's just all kinds of stuff that I'd want to explore further before committing to like a specific revenue model.
Yeah, no, I get that. I think it makes sense. Get everybody in, engaged, locked into you, and then you can determine what's going to be the most profitable, but also the most digestible for your clients.
Right, and given that these are sovereign rollups, if they don't like it, they can leave. It's like not
right.
Leave the Eclipse ecosystem, but we hope that we're providing enough value that they're like, this is totally worth it to us.
Yeah. What kind of value are you providing? Can you kind of walk through that? I mean, are you guys doing ongoing support, ongoing development? What happens there?
So this diagram's the best, where I like how it just says Eclipse in the middle. Before, I used to have Eclipse on the L3 as well, but that's not really right, because it's like in Cosmos, you spin up a Cosmos chain. That is a Cosmos chain, but you'd actually label this is Terra, this is Juno. So that's how we think about these L3s. They're like, these are chains that the app owns, and we provide this settlement process, which is, so the app executes a bunch of transactions. They store that on some layer one, whether that's Celestia or Polygon Avail or something like that. And then Eclipse just verifies that that no one's misbehaving. And if anyone's misbehaving, then we slash them. So that's the function of Eclipse. And that's the value even for the self-service option. For the enterprise option, we can imagine a world where we do a little more hand-holding, similar to like Red Hat or something like that. Right. We haven't really thought that through. And I don't want to be a services business.
Yeah, and that's capital intensive to get ramped up, get staffed, and everything else. Yeah, in a hard to find talent market.
You can't scale people. You can't scale labor. So
exactly. It's the least scalable part of this entire process. So
absolutely.
We're just doing that now because I think it's good to do things that don't scale initially from a process perspective, just to make sure that we have these like 10 out of 10 ICPs that are excited about Eclipse, willing to give strong testimonials, and then we can like focus on going from 1 to N.
Yeah, I love it.
Can I ask a quick question? So we always talk about Solana and the fact that everybody's over there on a language that's not used on, if any, of the other chains. It seems to me that with the EVM virtual machine compatibility here, that it allows apps that have been built on Solana to then essentially migrate to the other chains via Eclipse without having to learn other language. Is that a correct assumption?
Yeah, that's right. And that's like kind of how I view, maybe, I don't want to name any specific ecosystems, but let's say some unnamed ecosystem pays a big grant to a Solana project, and that project is required to migrate. It's kind of a win-win to get them on Eclipse. In the sense that from Solana's perspective, let's keep these guys on the SVM. Let's keep their code base intact. And then from this other ecosystem's perspective, let's do this migration as fast as possible. Let's get them to the new ecosystem. And then it's kind of like whoever's the better player wins. I'm assuming that if they're moving to Ecosystem X that gave them a large grant, Ecosystem X probably has their own community. They're going to be really excited to support this new app. And on the other hand, maybe after some period of exclusivity is over, maybe that project decides to migrate back, like who's to say. But I think it gives developers maximum optionality, and that's the real win. It's that we're giving developers ultimate choice regarding what execution layer they're writing for and what base layer they're using.
That's absolutely love that. In terms of the deal flow you're getting, are you getting this through like the folks that invested in you to find new projects that are coming in to get them on Eclipse?
Yeah, we pretty much do like zero cold outreach. So it's either inbound or we do warm outreach via folks that maybe it's even folks that haven't invested in us, but we're just possibly interested in having them in the next round or something like that. Yeah. So through VCs, we'll talk to gaming studios a lot. We talk to a lot of the time it's like folks that are already building on us who will refer one of their friends.
Oh, good.
But I mean, honestly, right now we're at capacity for the early access program. So we typically don't make exceptions to that unless it's like a big enough opportunity where we're like, we have to open up one additional spot for these guys.
Yeah, I get it. In terms of what's your timeline here for everything? No hard dates. I never ask for hard dates, but
yeah, hard dates are hard to give. But at a high level, definitely want to announce all these chains this upcoming month. So that's maybe it'll be a little tight. So within 1 month might be a little too tight, but we'll announce these as soon as possible. And then probably we'll kick off a Series A. So that's exciting. And then after that, we'd want to focus on the decentralization plan or make it self-service. And then we'd also want to take this gaming strategy from 1 to N, in the sense that we've seen some areas where there are pretty obvious traction. So we want to actually capitalize on that before other folks might.
Yeah, that makes sense. Leverage up as many of those as you can, get them in the queue, and then before everybody else figures out that that's a sweet market spot.
Exactly. Yeah. It's this like weird thing where your advantage as a startup is that you can strategically iterate really quickly. I can like pivot the whole company on like a day's notice. And that's something that if you're the size of some of these other projects, you're already like a several billion-dollar company or something. It's a little harder for you to do that kind of maneuvering. And we can also focus our entire resources on one specific area. Whereas these larger companies can get confused. They're like, okay, well, because we actually have the same shiny object syndrome in the sense that there's always these big projects where we're like, oh, that's awesome. We got to have that. But like, I want to focus on gaming for our BD resources just because it's much more effective if they're all doubling down on the same thing.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it makes total sense. I think that's a good approach and a good strategy. Anything else we should know about Eclipse? What you guys are up to? Are you guys hiring? How should projects reach out to you? All that good stuff.
Looking for like a great head of BD, ideally someone who, I think the ideal persona for someone like this would be someone who has experience with early stage BD, which is a mix of product, BD, sales. It's not really strictly sales. I think a lot of this like L1 BD, I almost wonder if it wouldn't be someone who's necessarily done the classic crypto native L1 thing, because I find that that's not really what we're looking for. Those guys there's more of a spray and pray approach that's been historically done, and that's not interesting to us. We're more like thoughtful and careful about what is the ICP, and if it doesn't meet it, then don't waste your time with the conversation. Maybe they'll sign an LOI or MOU, but that's non-binding. It's kind of a vanity metric. Yeah. And what really matters is, are they using the chain? Are they tweeting about us? Are they, even more than that, we actually charge like a little bit for our service agreements.
Good.
So we want someone who like understands that this is a little closer to enterprise sales, like B2B SaaS, but they also have that like knowledge of crypto, or they're excited about the space. So they'd be willing to learn what's required. So maybe even someone who is like a principal at a VC fund. So they have this very wide, expansive network. Maybe like a crypto native VC fund, or they have experience. I don't want to restrict them to gaming because we're definitely going to enter other verticals very soon. But gaming kind of helps because I think gaming in particular is pretty interesting for app chains.
Well, and I could see something where, a VC firm or firms would actually be pretty excited to have you as a pipeline for deals coming into them and having them deploy with you, right? So
totally, that's how we do it. And actually, for one of our investors, for Struck Crypto is Adam Struck is awesome, by the way. And one of the guys there, Ferris, who had the platform team, actually left Struck to join Eclipse full time to do.
Nice.
So
good pull.
Yeah.
Well, and it's cool to find VCs that are smart enough to know that just expands their reach and their network and their capabilities. That's great.
Totally.
That's awesome. That's great. Okay, so best place to get info for people that want to deploy Eclipse.builders or want to explore it. That's where they should go to get information.
Yep, I think the Twitter is best. Eclipse FND.
Okay.
On Twitter.
Cool. I'll put that in the show notes.
Great. Yeah, I know. The bane of my existence is that people sometimes type it as Eclipse FDN.
Okay.
Yeah. So FND and the website is pretty good too.
Awesome. Well, we'll send people your way. Neel, this sounds powerful. Sounds like you're on a really nice business model. And I like what you're doing with this. So we'll keep you in mind for projects we're talking to as well.
Great. Thank you. Yeah. Appreciate it.
Thanks a lot, man. We'll touch base in a few months and see how things are going.
Great. See ya. Bye.
Take care.
Nice to meet you, Neel. Good luck. Cheers.
All right.
Yeah, great project.
Yeah, that's cool. He's got his shit together. You can tell.
No,
it's those guys that are like they're gonna succeed. You know what I mean?
Well,
you can just tell.
Yeah, when you pull these quants out of different hedge funds and put them into these types of businesses, it's they're just so smart. Yeah. And they see all the angles, and I really see this to me as it fits into all the cross-chain, multi-chain, all of those pieces of the puzzle that we're always talking about, and all the sort of adherence to sort of the Cosmos type philosophy. It's kind of, again, the same thing you and I talk about all the time. pushing all of this, what is the chain back into infrastructure behind the walls. So you don't see it.
So you don't care.
Yeah, I love the fact that, it allows an outlet for everybody on Solana to go do things on other chains without having to go learn Solidity or another language. So to me, that's, there's a lot of people looking at this problem in different ways. And, I just think when you look at something like this and you think about groups like Axelar and you think about, other types of, like the guys that, who we just talked, Arweave, they're like sort of, chain agnostic too, it seems like. All of this is going to somehow evolve into something again where we don't see it all.
Absolutely.
And that's super impressive. So look, they're getting ready to do the Series A. They already got a round of money in, but I guess that must be the seed round. And when you had that investor list up, I think I saw Polychain and I saw 3 or 4 other
there was
top tier funds.
Here they are: Polychain, Tribe, Struck. So that's Adam Struck that he was just talking about. Soma, Galileo, and more, but we can't plus more. And then Solana Foundation's involved, Celestia, Polygon, Eigenlayer, Near, and more.
Yeah,
so that's awesome.
And also, I remember back in the .com days when, all the investment bankers I was talking to, they were always leaving the bank to go be CFOs of .com protocols. And, we're kind of seeing that same theme. We mentioned this the last couple of days as well, or last couple of weeks, that, how many times now are we seeing the BD guys in not that Neel's not the BD guy, but, I was thinking about sort of the Polygon guy. Was it Jack Melnick, I think?
Melnick, yeah. That was it.
Or Adam, or oh gosh, I forget all the names. The BNB chain BD person,
Alex
Kim. Yeah, Kim. Alex Kim. At Crypto Kim with an extra M on Twitter. All those guys came from TradeFi or Quant World. And, if the BD guys are coming from that, it's kind of interesting because the CFOs, when they came out of the investment banks, that CFO role is not, an accountant type person. That's a finance person who knows how to go and raise money and go do partnerships and things. You're seeing the same thing maturing in the crypto space too, which again, makes me think really positive for the future as to what we're seeing out there, all the building going on. So
absolutely.
Definitely enjoying that trend myself.
Yeah, me too. Mt. Gox creditors have until March 10th to register and choose their repayment method.
You would think they'd all have already been in there. I don't get why.
I would assume everybody has, but they got 2 days. If you haven't yet, get it in there. Get it in there, boys and girls.
Yeah. Do anybody we know have exposure there?
I don't. Somebody told me one of the people we interviewed at some point had Mt. Gox exposure, but I don't think they cared anymore. So we talked a little bit about Elon, right? So then last night he does a call with this guy Hallie. I think it's Hallie. Anyway, he does a call with him to apologize. But here's his apology. I would like to apologize to Holly for my misunderstanding of the situation. It was based on things I was told that were untrue or in some cases were true but not meaningful. He is considering remaining at Twitter. Now, for those of you that haven't been paying attention, Elon Musk decided to publicly slam a dude with muscular dystrophy who is a lauded citizen of Iceland, has installed thousands of wheelchair ramps all over the country and now the world, had a very successful tech design business, was acquired by Twitter, but all of the major tech companies in the world hired his firm. He sold to Twitter because he was getting weaker and weaker from his muscular dystrophy and decided to, bank some money, and he had to work as part of his contract for Twitter. So, roll forward quickly. He escapes like the first 25 layoffs that Musk did, and everyone where Musk said he wouldn't lay them off anymore. And then finally, he thinks he's laid off, but he doesn't know if he's laid off because nobody's told him. Well, what he also doesn't say is that if he gets fired, Twitter has to pay all of the money they owe to him immediately for the acquisition. because he had agreed to take his salary. Get this, he had agreed to take his acquisition money as salary because he wanted to pay 45% in tax to his country instead of 22% tax that he would have gotten taxed on the acquisition straight out cash, because he was so grateful for the education system there, and he wanted some of his windfall from the money he made to go to the education system. So
plus, yeah, it would spread out over a couple of years too, versus being a lump sum. And and that's typical, earn out type structures. But you're right. You fire someone not for cause, it accelerates everything up instantly. All the vesting, all the salaries, all of it. So
this guy tweets out, "Hey, I don't know if I'm fired or not. Elon, what's the story? Am I going to get paid? Whatever." Yeah. And Elon decides to fucking publicly thinks he's going to publicly humiliate this guy. This guy was really clever, really smart. And the way he responded to him, made jokes about inheriting an emerald mine and how many wives he's been through and the fact that he never sees his children, all without directly saying you're a piece of shit, which was just awesome. Right? Yeah. So then Elon publicly discloses that he has muscular dystrophy, right? Big no-no. Or that he has a disability. And then tells him that he's a useless dude. He wasn't doing any work, blah, blah, blah. Well, now he comes out to apologize. And this is what's classic for me about all these kinds of these apologies. It's not apology. It's not an apology to the person for being an asshole to him in public. It is an apology for his misunderstanding of the situation, right? I'm not going to take ownership of the fact that I fucked up and I was an idiot and I was an asshole to you publicly with my millions of followers and then all of my little minions piled on top of you. I am going to only apologize for my misunderstanding. And then I'm going to blame it on the team at Twitter, my behavior, because they told me shit that wasn't true or true but not meaningful. So,
well, just that last sentence. Yeah. He is considering remaining at Twitter tells you everything, because that takes it off the I didn't fire him. It makes it sound like he was going to quit. Yeah. And so now he's going to say, well, maybe he stays at Twitter, but he says, I want 3X on my deal.
Yeah. Two things happened here. Elon found out that they were going to have to pay out a fucking lump sum. And Elon's attorneys said, what the fuck is wrong with you? You have just opened us up to a massive fucking lawsuit, you fucking idiot. You don't have the money to what you're going to lose in this lawsuit. Yeah. Anyway, it was fucking hilarious.
I love Chuck's comment on this.
Chuck said, here's hoping Space Karen gets completely bent over on this issue. What a jackwad. Totally agree, dude.
Yeah. I agree. I guess it's just his style to always be, power user of Twitter, but it seems like, some stuff's better left unsaid in public.
Yeah, everything is for him. It's ego. It's his whole life is run by his ego. I mean, he bought Twitter just so he could fucking control it, so he could control how his ego is presented. I mean, he didn't buy it because he wanted it was.
He did say something about, it was a left wing woke bubble, and he has to fix it and take it back to being neutral. And I'm kind of like. Yeah, I never really saw that at all. I thought it was always maybe leaning more the other way than neutral.
Well, and if you actually look at the actual data, Facebook and Twitter have always given preference in the algorithms. The algorithms have always treated right-wing news and information and given it higher ranking than left-wing shit. So.
Is it because of toxicity, or because I can't see them really being able to judge content?
I think the engagement happens on it, right? People get pissed off, liberals get screaming, everybody's screaming at each other because it's so hateful and nasty shit that these right-wingers put out, and that's what happens. I'm sure the extreme left has similar levels of engagement as well on Twitter, right? Because they're trying to stir up a fight and say hateful, mean shit. So, whatever.
Yeah, you're right. It's both extremes. Yeah. I mean, it's too bad that it can't be... I wish there would be one where I guess it was just thoughtful discussion, but then who the hell would engage? Or you would only get the professorial types waxing poetic on everything, but all the dumb shits would be, over somewhere else screaming toxic crap,
I find that if I pull back from the initial anger I have at somebody being an asshole, and then try to engage at some level, that there are occasions when you can have a thoughtful, intelligent conversation. Yeah. But I'm just like anybody else. I'm guilty of responding in anger as well. I I've always said that I would love for Twitter to have a like you have something in common indicator on people's profiles. So like you fill out based on your use of Twitter, and then you can fill out a profile, whatever. But like, you know, maybe you share you collect Beanie Babies as a hobby, right? But if every person you started to interact with on their profile, there was like a little circle or something that indicated you had something in common with them, you could click it and see that. I find that when I have something in common with something, a common sports team I like, a place I'm from, whatever, I'm more likely to chill out on the anger side of things than if I don't have anything in common, or I think they're just some mysterious asshole on Twitter. So anyway, I think that'd be
that's a good point. Yeah, I think it's, I have had that experience where, I don't really do this anymore because I just don't even remotely engage with that kind of shit. But I remember, some people would say stuff and you just come back without any emotion, just stating something, or you basically pivot to their point for a bit, but then say, did you consider this? And they keep coming at you for a little while, but then they stop. And then, of course, you get the accusation that you're a bot or something like that. When someone accuses me of being a bot, then I declare victory at that point and head on out the door. But it's just not worth it to me emotionally. There's so many other things to do in life versus, sitting there fighting for 8 hours on Twitter with people.
Mr. Muccioli said, I went and bought chips. Now I'm ready for the BTC nuke.
Where is it right now? Does anybody know?
Yeah.
Is it below 22?
I don't know. Euphoric said, always remember half the people in the world have below average intelligence. Yeah, that's a good thing.
I think it's more than that, Euphoric. I mean, I saw some IQ charts and the mean is like 100 on IQs, which tells me that half the people in the world have IQs below 100.
Yeah.
I mean, I think a Labrador is 37.
Well, look, I think the biggest thing missing in the world right now is no one is learning analytical thinking as a child from the beginning. Like how to actually analytically think about things, which allows you to reduce the emotions you push into conversations, right? So,
it's true.
SEC got slapped down by the judge. They were trying to stop Binance US from doing the Voyager deal. The creditors all said, fuck you. And the judge said, fuck you, Binance US, you get the crypto. So,
I mean, why not? That's the thing. I mean, I remember what was the original objection? A source of funds issue or something like that? And
they wanted SEC wanted Binance to disclose more information about where the money was coming from, I think. But
yeah, so kind of like, what are they really trying to do there is figure out the connection between Binance US and Binance proper. So
right, and the judge is like, no, that's not an issue in this case.
It's invasion of privacy too, I think, in a lot of ways. So
exactly,
you got the money, you got the people, you're a U.S. operation, you want to buy something, why can't you buy it?
Exactly.
So I'm glad to see, again, this is another example, I think, where we're going to start seeing. I mean, some people call these guys activist judges. I call them like making good decisions.
Exactly.
And we see it in the Grayscale case. I think we're going to see it there. I think we're going to see it in the Ripple case. I think we're seeing a lot of these cases. Unfortunately, it just takes too damn long.
Oh my God, it's such a fucking long
Congress
process.
would just get off their ass, as we keep saying, and put some legislation forward. Of course, we know they don't really understand any of this shit.
Yep.
So, it'd probably be really stupid legislation, but anything. Come on, let's just get that shit out there so we can litigate the legislation versus litigating the cases.
Yep. U.S. government moved $1 billion worth of Silk Road Bitcoin onto Coinbase. So people are wondering if there's going to be a sell-off. I don't think the government has responded to why they moved them, but you would think that would be why, unless, they're going to start day trading, which would be kind of fun to watch. Yeah.
Or they could go in and, get some yield. Why don't they call up Coinbase and say, hey, dude.
They're going to start staking. They're going to flip it to...
We can't get yield over here.
They're going to flip it to
shut it fucking down, dude.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, that's classic. The first month of bills came in from the FTX lawyers and advisors. $40 million for one fucking month.
Really? Oh, I thought it'd be higher.
But I mean, think about that. If this is going to take 2 years, 3 years, there's not going to be a goddamn scrap left.
Well, that's why they're suing GBTC to get that $8 billion in Bitcoin back, because somebody's got to pay the lawyers.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, Financial Times did a little 30-minute documentary on FTX and Sam. It was interesting. I didn't. There's nothing new in there, but if you need somebody to understand kind of the timeline of events and what happened and how it happened, it's a pretty good explainer. The primary narrator though is obviously they don't understand the difference between centralized entities and what happens on chain. And so it's kind of painful. You're kind of like screaming at the screen, like, okay, you're an idiot. But the rest of the coverage of it's pretty good. It's well done. So,
what I find to that point, you see so much inflammatory journalism out there talking about, or the guy who's the bankruptcy guy, John Ray or something like that, or somebody Ray.
Yeah.
And he's like, he goes, there's only 140 million in assets here. And he says this stuff out loud where it gets quoted. And then a day later, he's like, oh, we're still in GBTC to get our $8 billion back.
Yeah, exactly.
So, he would say there's only 140 million. There's no hope of any depositors getting their money back.
Yeah.
And then it's like, and then the next sentence is, oh, yeah, well, there's 8 billion over there.
Yeah.
I mean, it just shows that, these guys are all feathering their own nest, too. And at the end of the day, as I've said repeatedly, everybody who's pled guilty in this is going to go to jail. And at the end of the day, you're going to see that, hey, it wasn't as bad as everybody said it was when they recover these assets, or there's any price recovery in Bitcoin. And then in the end, SBF's going to be able to cut a deal with a credit for time served under house arrest. And he's not going to jail for 500 years. He's going to maybe get a small thing because it's going to be recovered
10,
by
15,
then.
20?
I think less than that. I mean,
Wow.
If you can't see damages at that point,
Right.
let's just say Bitcoin recovers. I mean, I think most people think it's going to be significantly higher over the course of the next 2 to 3 years, right?
Yep.
So then all of a sudden everything looks solvent. It's hard to argue other than commingling and shit or front running stuff with Alameda. It's hard to really argue that anybody was harmed.
Yep.
And so at that point, I just think it's not going to be as bad as everybody thinks.
Do you think they still have enough crypto in there to make that happen?
Well, if you just know that there's the 8 billion at GBTC,
True.
And at what are we at, like 22,000?
Yeah, that's a good point.
It goes 5x up to 100 maybe, and all of a sudden you're looking at $40+ billion there. I mean, who's going to have what do they call it? A grievance to sue, or a party that could sue, because nobody will suffer damages.
Yeah. This guy on the screen right here.
Yeah.
He's been day trading crypto since 2016. Built up to like 3.6 million. Lost some value in the downturn, but he had 2.1 million left at FTX.
Well, again, it's the force total.
Yeah, here's the thing. He's also lead plaintiff on the class action. So
yeah. So look, if all of a sudden you're made whole, or you're up 2 or 3x on what you put in there.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe you probably can make a legal argument that there's still a claim, but at that point,
I think you could do
you?
like mental anguish, blah blah blah. Get something out of it. But you're right. I mean, look, the bottom line is, if they have to wait 4 years, and all of a sudden everything that's in there on that, of that Bitcoin, he goes from 2.1 million to 8 million. You weren't going to day trade 2 million in gains per year off your 2.1 million. So
no.
So
and it's hard to show
may
that
turn
you're
into
harmed.
a positive. Yeah. Makes sense.
So we've seen this whole year of FUD basically, or 6-8 months of, I'm going to call it a year. I don't remember when Celsius went down, but or when Terra went down. I guess those were all like August, September, right? And then FTX was maybe October-ish or something. To me, I just have a feeling that, just the way that the bankruptcy lead guy is treating all this. I mean, he could be sued for making statements like that.
Oh yeah.
That there's only 150 million here. Well, how is that not misrepresentation?
Right.
When you're holding a promissory note or some kind of an agreement with GBTC that says they have 8-point-something billion dollars worth of Bitcoin of yours.
Right.
I mean, is that not the same thing? Is that not,
Makes sense.
putting out a fake financial statement to the markets?
Right.
So I think there's a lot more to this story that's going to come out going forward. Otherwise, they would have SBF in jail, or otherwise he wouldn't have agreed to extradition, or he wouldn't have stayed in the Bahamas. So there's much more here to this that's going to come out.
It's going to be
I'm
interesting.
not saying he was a great manager or anything, but he did take some big investments in a lot of protocols that are worth significant money.
It's true.
So in the end, he might come out looking like a real savvy investor, just a rather disorganized one.
Yeah, maybe so. Well, I would love
Let's
to
hope
see
for
everyone
it.
made whole. That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome. All right, let's wrap it up, Joe. Hey, everybody.
All right,
Thank
buddy.
you so much for joining us today. We love and appreciate you. Chuck, Mr. Muccioli, Neil, thanks for joining us. Niblets, Shizzy, all the gang. Love and appreciate you guys. Thanks for watching. If you are listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, please take just a minute to rate and review us. It helps a lot to boost us in the algorithm. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure you subscribe, click the little bell so you get notifications, and Joe would like you to smash the thumbs up. Mr. Muccioli says, I recommend Reckless, great summarization of the crypto games from 2017 to 2022. I'll check it out. Thanks, Mr. Muccioli.
Thank
That's
you.
awesome. All right, everybody, have a great day. Joe, I hope you have a great afternoon.
Yep, you too, buddy. Hope you feel better.
Thanks.
And, go get some exercise, get some fresh air. It'll help. Get that Denver air out of your lungs, or that plane air out of your lungs.
There you go.
And tomorrow you said we have skilling, right?
Tomorrow's skilling. Friday is Sean is going to impart his thoughts and opinions on yields in DeFi. And
Let me see if I can guess what that's going
maybe
to be.
slightly contentious. We'll see. We'll see.
That's always fun. That's
Yeah.
always fun. I always like watching on the sidelines while you guys brawl.
Great. Thanks, everybody. Have a good one.
Hey, yeah.